Okay.
Hello, and thank you for being here. My name is Elissa Arnheim, and this is the Healthy Gut, Happy Child Summit. Nourish your child, release their vitality, and watch them thrive. Today, it is my great honor to be here with Holistic Mama Doc, Dr. Elisa Song. Hi, Elisa.
Hi. Hey, Lisa. I'm so excited to be on your summit again. What an honor to be able to share this information twice. I mean, it's incredible what work you're doing, and it's so important for our kids.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lisa. Well, you're doing completely amazing work yourself and reaching so many
Oh,
people.
thank
So
you.
this really is a privilege. So first, I'd like to share a little bit about you, okay?
Okay, great.
Holistic Mama Doc, Dr. Elisa Song, MD, is a holistic pediatrician, pediatric functional medicine expert, and mama to two crazy fun kids. In her integrative pediatric practice, Whole Family Wellness, she's helped thousands of kids get to the root causes of their health concerns and help their parents understand how to help their children thrive, body, mind, and spirit, by integrating conventional pediatrics with functional medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, herbal medicine, and essential oils. These health concerns have ranged from frequent colds, ear infections, asthma and eczema, to autism, ADHD, anxiety, depression, and autoimmune illnesses. Dr. Song is the host of the Thriving Child Summit, a life-changing event for parents to learn how to help their children thrive. Dr. Song created Healthy Kids, Happy Kids to share her advice and adventures as a holistic pediatrician and mama. Now everyone can have their very own virtual holistic pediatrician. You can follow her blog at healthykidshappykids.com and get even more tips and inspiration from her on Facebook and Instagram. Wow. And today we're here to talk about the gut immune system
That's right.
connection, preventing and treating asthma, eczema, allergies, and autoimmune diseases in our kids. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this topic is so near and dear to my heart because it's just, the gut is the foundation of our immune health, of our kids' developing brains. And, we really have to start there.
Yeah, it is. It is so true. So how about, can we start with you sharing what the triggers are for allergies and asthma and autoimmune disease?
Yeah, really, when we look at all of these health concerns that our kids are suffering from today, we really have to look at this epidemic increase in this immune system dysfunction that our kids are experiencing. Asthma and eczema. Eczema is now considered an autoimmune illness. We're seeing kids with autoimmune illness at younger and younger ages. I had a 6-month-old baby diagnosed with Crohn's disease. A toddler, 3-year-old diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and, a 5-year-old with autoimmune uveitis, and the list goes on. And, this is not something that we should be accepting as parents, right? I mean, we need to figure out what is going on with our kids. Why are they so sick nowadays? Why are, over 1 in 2 kids, a little over 50% of kids now are diagnosed with some sort of a chronic illness, right? And we need to stand up and say, wait a second, something's not right. We're not going to accept this new normal, right? This is not normal. We need to step back and say, it is not normal for our kids to have eczema. It's not normal for them to have colic and reflux, right? And figure out what's going on. So, when we look at the triggers of all of these sort of immune dysfunctions, we really need to start with the gut. All health starts in the gut, and for that baby, for that developing infant, right, all of their organ systems are developing in utero, and of course once they're born, and the gut has this intimate relationship with the immune system. What I tell parents is, the tonsils in the back of your throat, your entire GI tract is lined with those tonsil-like patches called the gut-associated lymphoid tissue that has a direct communication with your child's immune system. And your gut is literally training your baby's immune system from inside the womb and as soon as they're out. So but really the foundation of these chronic illnesses and the triggers really lead back to gut dysbiosis, right? An abnormal overgrowth of, abnormal bacteria, yeast, parasites, viruses, or not enough growth of the beneficial bacteria, right, the probiotics. So it's this gut imbalance. And then subsequently something called leaky gut. So we can really see that all of these at their foundation, at their core, have gut imbalance and gut dysregulation.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and as we speak right now, literally 2 days ago, so this is now April 2nd of 2018, the Journal of the American Medical Association, right, highly respected medical journal, right, published one of the largest studies of almost 800,000 kids looking at infants, from 0 to 6 months of age who received an acid suppressing medicine like Zantac, right, and an acid reducer, an antacid, or antibiotics. And for babies who received antacids or antibiotics in the first 6 months of life, half of them went on in the next 4 years to develop any type of allergic disease, whether it's food allergies, environmental allergies, asthma, and eczema, right? Anaphylaxis, all of these, allergies that seem so commonplace in our kids nowadays. And, when you and I were kids, we might have known a child with an anaphylactic peanut allergy, but now look at the schools, right? Virtually all schools now are nut-free zones, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is even skin allergies, right? And so, we need to think about, the lead researcher, and I actually have a little quote. I quoted what the lead researcher, Dr. Edward Mitra, wrote about why they thought this was happening. What is the correlation? We've known this for years in the functional medicine world, and there have been articles previously looking at the association of, acid reducers, even moms taking acid reducers during pregnancy, and antibiotics, early antibiotic use with the risk of this sort of allergic march, just atopic illnesses, eczema, asthma, allergies, and I would put autoimmune illnesses in that category. But what Dr. Edward Mitra notes is that gut bacteria play a role in a healthy immune system. Antibiotics and antacids might change the makeup of a baby's microbiome, right, their gut microbiome, perhaps enough to cause an overreaction in the immune system that shows up as an allergy. So this is profound. This is in a very conventional medical journal, but we need to wake up to the power of our baby's gut microbiome to shape their immune health and their brain health for the rest of their lives, right? So we have this golden opportunity when they're little to create the optimal gut environment. It really matters for their health. By the same token, I don't want anyone listening out there, and if their child has eczema or asthma or an autoimmune illness, to say, well, oh my gosh, well, my baby did get antibiotics or my baby did get antacids. Is there any hope? And there is, and we're going to talk about that, right? Because knowing that gut health, that immune health starts in the gut, if our kids' immune systems are already dysregulated, we go back to the gut, right? And we heal the gut.
Yeah, so powerful, so full of hope. I love it. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you establish a really healthy gut microbiome so that you can prevent these chronic conditions from happening and help train that immune system?
Yes, yeah. This is a really... Again, when I talk about, the factors that we can really use to help promote a healthy gut microbiome, I don't want any mama or papa listening out there, especially the mamas, right? We have so much mama guilt already, right? I don't want you sitting here listening and thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't do those things, and now my baby is 4 or they're 8 or they're whatever age. These are things that if you have the opportunity, right, if you're pregnant or if you're thinking about becoming pregnant for the first time, for the second time, for the third time, we can help shape the factors preconception, right, and in the womb. So ideally, we'll start with mama's gut, right, because we know that mama's gut microbiome during pregnancy absolutely sort of shapes, informs, imprints the baby's gut, developing gut microbiome and immune system. We used to think that the babies were born with completely sterile guts, no bacteria, and they relied on coming out in the world, getting vaginal flora through mom's vaginal canal during birth to become colonized. But we actually do know there is sort of DNA of mama's probiotics in the umbilical cord and found in the placenta. So there's some transfer there. And even if babies' guts aren't being colonized, there is that information and that imprinting happening. So we want mama's gut to be as healthy as possible. So if you have the opportunity, even before you start to get pregnant, clean up your diet, whole foods, phytonutrient diet, get on those fermented foods, take probiotics. We've found there are studies showing that especially if you have a family history of asthma, eczema, allergies, mama's taking a particular probiotic called Lactobacillus rhamnosus, or Lactobacillus GG is also what it's called. During their pregnancy and while they're nursing, those babies had a significantly reduced chance of developing these atopic illnesses later on in life, right? And so, we want to make sure that moms don't just take the Lactobacillus rhamnosus, but have, really a full spectrum, a broad spectrum of probiotic bacteria in their gut, because each of those provides a different benefit, from detoxification to antioxidant to production of vitamins and minerals and their own enzymes to antimicrobial properties. So many different benefits to producing neurotransmitters. That's another thing. If we can get back to mamas, even preconception and in utero, and really help with that mindfulness and that stress reduction. And this is key. I think that we don't realize enough the power of emotional stress over shaping our gut microbiome. We think about, this gut-brain connection, and it's a two-way communication that's happening, through the vagus nerve. And most of our neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, are actually produced by certain gut bacteria, certain probiotics, different lactobacillus and different bifidobacter species. So, of course, if our gut is dysregulated, if mamas during the pregnancy need to take antibiotics or antacids, and your gut flora is a little bit disrupted, we may not develop sufficient levels of those neurotransmitters, which make us manage our stress maybe not as ideally, have an increased tendency perhaps to anxiety and depression. But it goes the other way too. Anxiety and depression and stress and not having a healthy stress response actually changes our gut flora too. And, even mama stress, we found it can change vaginal flora. So really, preserving this time during pregnancy, we spend so much time, many of us, trying to get pregnant, right? So even then during pregnancy, we want to really, really preserve and honor that mama role, that nurturing of creating this beautiful, healthy baby, right? Which means that we need to also cut ourselves some slack as moms and say, you know what, I'm going to let some of this go. And, yes, I'm going to get a little bit more sleep, than I'm used to, and really nurture myself because it's nurturing my baby, right? So that's, sort of during preconception and in utero, if we can get mama's gut as healthy as possible. And then there are factors, around the birth that we want to consider. Of course, ideally we will have babies who are vaginally birthed if possible, right? Because during vaginal birth, we know that babies who are born vaginally compared with babies who are born by C-section, even within days, have different gut microflora and start developing a healthier pattern of gut bacteria, as opposed to C-section babies, which tend to really get colonized earlier on with more skin flora, right? But C-sections are sometimes absolutely needed, right? So if your baby was born by C-section, or if you're given antibiotics during your labor and delivery for Group B strep or whatever other indication, we want to make sure that immediately we try to seed our baby's gut, with good probiotics. And you can start infant probiotics from birth, and making sure that you as a mama are also taking those probiotics, drinking your bone broth, getting your fermented foods, right? Nursing. I mean, we always talk about breast is best, but there's so many factors in breast milk that we're identifying that have such benefits for the developing immune system and for that gut microbiome. There are factors like lactoferrin and human milk oligosaccharides, these HMOs, that really promote healthy bacteria from developing in your baby's gut. And we also have, so many different sources of, glutamine and of course the healthy fats and, but this relies on mamas having, sufficient levels too. So I make sure you're taking care of yourself even while you're nursing, right? Because we run ourselves ragged and we're just getting completely depleted. So making sure you're eating healthily, not reaching for the quick snacks, but making sure that, you have your partner or family members bringing you healthy whole foods to eat and snack on, and making sure that your vitamin D levels and your zinc levels and your iron levels and your probiotic, consumption are all optimal so that your baby gets all of that through your breast milk. And then, once the baby's born, there's so many factors, right, that can create gut dysregulation, like, if your baby has an ear infection or, whatever bacterial infection early on, antibiotics may be needed. There is a time and a place for everything, right? If your babies have really severe colic or reflux, perhaps they might need an antacid, but I will say there's so many things that we can do from a functional medicine standpoint and an integrative standpoint to help your babies with colic and reflux. And this is something that I talk about a lot with my families, with their newborns, because, there was a time, this was back, in my training, when I graduated from my pediatrics residency, at UCSF back in 2000. I mean, this is now, I guess, almost 20 years ago. I mean, it was unheard of, to use antacids in babies. And then somewhere down the road, a few years later, all of a sudden Zantac was approved for infants and it was being given out like candy, as opposed to really helping moms understand and dads understand what that fussy period was for babies, and I do think that babies are, this is so tough. I think that babies are having more abdominal symptoms, more reflux symptoms, really uncomfortable early on in life. And I think there are a lot of different factors, with that. I think, because our diets have changed, our lifestyle has changed. It's just a more stressful environment that babies are born into, but there's so many things that we can do using what I call your natural medicines toolkit. So I know I'm talking a lot. I don't know if you have any questions for me, before we kind of delve into some of what we can do for reflux, because I think that's also really important, because parents want to know, if my baby has reflux or my doctor's telling me they have reflux and they're miserable, they're arching their back, they're spitting out everywhere, they're screaming, and you just want to help them, get out of their pain, what can we do?
Yeah, I would love to move right on into that question, into those answers. So keep on going.
Okay, because really, this is, when we think about our baby's gut microbiome, in that first 1 to 3 years of life, this is our opportunity to really try to shape that gut microbiome as optimally as possible. What many people don't realize is that the gut microbiome after about 2 or 3 years of age is very difficult to change. So what's happened in those early years often sets a pattern that can be difficult to break, whether it's having, yeast dysbiosis or just persistent dysregulation that we can heal, but it might take a little longer, right? And the more the pattern gets set, right? It's just like any habit that we form. If your gut, has learned this habit of fostering, these abnormal bugs or functioning in a way that's not optimal, we need to retrain our gut. And the longer the pattern gets set and the habit is set, the longer it takes to retrain, right? So in terms of infants with reflux and colic, if we can, of course, especially with this new research paper, right, where hopefully we'll have more and more pediatricians and family practice docs very judiciously using antibiotics and antacids and really trying to think, what else can we do, right? For babies, we want to realize that all babies are born with a leaky gut. Right? I mean, leaky gut has become sort of this bad word, but, babies are born with a leaky gut, which is why the recommendation is to hold off on solids until babies are older, 6 months of age, because that's when the leaky gut is mostly healed if everything goes right, and they can tolerate the introduction of solids much better, right? Without developing intolerances or sensitivities or allergies. That being said, there are some newer guidelines for these allergenic foods like peanuts and egg whites and shellfish and other nuts and seeds, to, if you have a family risk, for allergies, to introduce those a little bit earlier to almost desensitize your child and reduce the risk of allergies. But in terms of thinking about reflux in a baby or colic, the first thing we want to realize is, babies go through a fussy phase, right? This is I do think that babies in the States and probably in the West will probably go through a fussier phase than other places where mothers are allowed to slow down. They don't have to go back to work in 6 weeks. They're not worried about, am I going to have enough milk stored up for my baby? They don't have to worry about, how am I going to, I have a toddler, behind me, I can't nap, I can't eat, I can't sleep when I need to with my baby. So again, we're not preserving this precious time when moms are pregnant, and we're certainly not preserving this precious time, after babies are born to help support that mother-infant dyad, which is so important. So I think, if we as moms can work on our mindfulness, work on our stress reduction, decrease our adrenaline overdrive, that sympathetic fight or flight response that we get into, after our babies are born, our babies are also going to get less adrenaline from us and be less in that kind of wired state. Right? I mean, we see this all the time. We're stressed, and, maybe we didn't drink coffee during our pregnancy and we're going back to drinking a little bit after our babies are born. And, we're still trying to do everything, that we've done before, run our errands, maybe catch up on some work if you're going back to work, take care of a toddler, cook all the meals, right? And we're just not giving ourselves a break. So we are in this wired state, and I was totally there. I mean, I remember when my daughter was maybe about 4 or 5 weeks of age, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going back to the office in a few weeks. I need to pump as much as I can. I don't have time to sleep because I have to catch up on all the work that I wasn't doing, over the past couple of weeks. And, my husband went away. I told him, go get some, at least you enjoy yourself. This happened to be an epic ski year. So I said, go visit your mother in Salt Lake and go skiing, right? And I said, just go, I'll be fine, with the baby. And he went he actually was supposed to be gone for a 3 or 4 day weekend. And I called him after 2 days. I'm like, can you just come back a little earlier? Because literally those 2 days, I didn't sleep. I didn't shower. I felt like I couldn't eat. I was just this wired mess. And I'm watching myself thinking, what am I doing? Right? Like, why am I in this state? But I couldn't get myself out of it. And of course, Kenzie was even fussier during that time, right? Because she's feeding off of my energy and my shoulders are up to my ears. I'm trying to rock her and comfort her, but I'm not doing a good job, relaxing and rocking her gently, right? So, working on that maternal stress is really important. But that being said, if there are other factors as well, right? So it's got to be this whole picture. Most babies, if they're really refluxy and colicky and having a hard time, it's because they do have some inflammation in their gut going on, and they're reacting to something they're eating, right? Which is either formula or breast milk, something in the breast milk. And again, I don't want you to stop nursing and going on a hypoallergenic formula, but we want to recognize, okay, maybe something that we're eating is affecting the baby, and at least temporarily we want to just, figure that out. So what I typically do is, for moms, I look at their diet and I say, for 2 weeks, let's eliminate some of the biggest culprits. Right? The biggest culprits are going to be, number one, hands down, is dairy. Sometimes even that little bit of creamer in your coffee is enough to set things off. So 100% off dairy, gluten, soy, eggs, and citrus. When I did this for my younger sister, and I do this for many, many patients, right? Possibly nuts and seeds. I see what moms might think that they themselves are reacting to as well, right? Now, I know, okay, as I just said that, some people are like, oh my gosh, then what can I eat, right? Like, that's what I'm living on, right? So what I want moms to focus on then is really reframing that and thinking about everything that they can eat, right? All of the healthy, lean, organic meats that they can eat, the healthy fats, avocados, coconut oil, any fruit or vegetable. I don't cut out, the fruits and vegetables, right? So really, all the gluten-free grains. So focusing on all the healthy foods that you can eat and stocking your pantry with that, making, some casseroles that are easy to heat up, right? That are going to be free of these foods. It'll take about 2 or 3 days of eliminating those foods for them to wash out of your breast milk. But if you take out all those foods, within a few days, typically most babies are so much better, right? And so then after those few days, then we can see, all right, is it all of these or is it just one of these that's the culprit? The reason why I have mamas take out all of the foods is because we don't want to just piece by piece try gluten. Oh, they're still fussy. It must not be the gluten. So maybe I'll try the dairy. Oh, it's not the gluten after a few days. Let me try, the eggs, dairy, let me try the eggs, right? So then now all of a sudden you're 3 weeks into trial and error, right? So this way we cut out all the major culprits. Hopefully by then your babies are going to be a lot calmer. And then we can try back one by one, have an egg day where you try eggs, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you just wait and watch and see, how they respond. And if they're really fussy, okay, that's one of the culprits. Let's keep that out, and then let's try the next food. In the meantime, you're also giving your baby great infant probiotics. And there's one particular strain called Lactobacillus reuteri that can be found in various infant probiotics or as a standalone. BioGaia and Gerber actually now has BioGaia's Lactobacillus reuteri in their probiotic baby supplement called Gerber Soothe. And so, I typically recommend getting the Lactobacillus reuteri and an infant probiotic in. So you're giving your baby those probiotics, right? You as a mama are taking probiotics as well, right? And lots of bone broth, getting that glutamine for you because often if babies are reacting to the foods you're eating, it typically also means that moms have leaky gut. So we're working kind of simultaneously, heal mama's leaky gut, heal baby's leaky gut, right? And then, so we're doing the probiotics, elimination diet for mama, and sometimes I will have babies just take a little sprinkle of digestive enzymes before they nurse, but typically having mamas take the digestive enzymes to really break down the food they're eating, make it less allergenic for her system and for the baby system so that those, kind of food antigen complexes aren't passing through her breast milk, can be really helpful. And then we use our natural medicines, right? I use homeopathy and acupressure and essential oils in the practice, herbal medicines. So herbal medicines, there was a study years and years and years ago, an Italian study looking at a combination of very gentle herbs that helped ease babies' colic and reflux symptoms. And those include chamomile and fennel, ginger. So I have mamas drink chamomile tea all day long. You can give your baby little syringes of chamomile tea throughout the day, full strength. There are various herbal supplements that you can get as well that have this combination. Gripe water, right, has some of these combinations. So that's why gripe water can work really well for some babies. And then homeopathy is really one of my preferred modalities for babies and pregnant women because they're so safe and so gentle, no interactions with any medications that mama might be taking, and yet they can be so effective. So, homeopathic medicines work best if you can really individualize it to how your baby is experiencing those symptoms. But if you don't have a homeopathic, physician or practitioner near you, one of the things that you can try is, Boiron has a homeopathic, colic formula for babies called Cocintal. That's Cocyntal. It just comes in liquid packets. You open up the packet, you just squirt into the baby's mouth, and you could do that 3-4 times a day. And then acupressure and essential oils. Some of my favorites too for babies. Now, with essential oils, we have the caveat that we don't use the really, strong, minty, eucalyptusy type essential oils around babies. They can be a little irritating to the respiratory system. But chamomile and lavender, I have no problems with using in infants. With babies, we always dilute essential oils. We don't use them neat, right? Not straight out of the bottle, but we dilute them in a carrier oil like olive oil or coconut oil. And I'll teach parents acupressure points. I do acupuncture in the office, but I don't expect parents to go home and do acupuncture on their babies, right? But for my sister, I was fortunate enough to be able to be with her baby girl. She's twin girls. And give them acupuncture, and I taught her acupressure points to use. And I put the essential oils right on those pressure points. So the 2 acupressure points that you want to use, and you can look up on Google. It's hard for me to show you. I wonder if actually, I have my little baby doll here that I'll demonstrate, right? So, this is my baby doll I used to teach years and years ago, infant massage to parents. So when you have, the 2 points are stomach 36. Okay, so that point, I'm going to put my baby on my shoulder, and that point is if you see their knee, okay, and just below their kneecap to the outer edge. That's stomach 36, a great point for helping to regulate the digestive system and also boost your child's immune system. This is another point I teach for parents, to boost immune systems. So that you can massage, you want to do firm but gentle massage. You can get your diluted chamomile or lavender essential oils or both. Chamomile helps with spasms, helps relieve that anxiety that babies are feeling. Really great for you as a mama to smell too. Lavender helps with stress relief and with inflammation. So you can massage that blend just right onto stomach 36. And then CB12, and I'll often do CB12 while you're nursing or feeding them. So if you're nursing them, right, you can do stomach, you can't even see me, but I'll sit up a little bit. But if you're nursing them, right, you could easily just, as you're nursing, just massage stomach 36, right? And then CB12, you can't really see my baby, but if she were naked, you could see the end of her rib cage, right? And her belly button, and halfway in between that point is CB12, okay? So again, right here, CB12, halfway between the end of her rib cage and her belly button. So you can massage CB12 and easy. I mean, this is an awkward position that I have my baby in, but if you're nursing her, that point's going to be exposed, right? So you can massage stomach 36, right? And you can do that throughout the day. So that's another great tool. I mean, what a great way to have that therapeutic, that loving touch for your baby, but also have it be therapeutic, right? So with those, I'm not going to say there will never be a time where Zantac isn't indicated, but the times are far and few between. We, as I think pediatricians and as parents, have become, what's the right word to use? Really not as, the second our babies cry, we want to do something for them, right? We want to give them a medicine to help them feel less comfortable, or we want to give them something to stop crying. And I tell parents, this time when babies are really fussy, yes, many of them have digestive issues and we want to deal with that. But this normal fussy period, which starts around 2 weeks of age and really peaks around 4 to 6 weeks of age, right? Once you hit that 6-week mark, 8-week mark, I tell parents, this is the worst of it. It's going to get better, right? It's just a blip in time, and it seems like forever right now, but it passes, right? And when you're in it, it's so hard to believe that, but it does pass, right? But if we imagine what's going on in our babies' brains, right? They were surrounded by fluid, right? Your amniotic fluid in your womb. They heard muffled sounds. They did smell, right? And they used all of their senses, even in the womb. But everything was just filtered, right? They were protected, and then they come out into this world. Every single smell, sight, sound, touch, taste. I mean, it's all brand new, and their brains are learning that, right? So in the first 2 weeks, a lot of times, that newborn visit, many parents will say, oh my gosh, my baby is a dream. They're sleeping, they're barely fussy, they're not crying. And then at 2 weeks, they come back in a little bit more tired and saying, they're starting to get a little fussy. And I tell them, you know what, it will likely pick up, right? It will likely get worse, but then it gets better. And what's happening around 2 weeks is our baby's brains are growing so rapidly, right? This explosion. We're noticing that in our babies. They're spending a little bit more time awake with their eyes open, right? A little bit more time making eye contact with you, moving more, right? And by 4 weeks of age, many babies are maybe starting to have a teeny little bit of a smile and really, looking at you, and you can tell they're just soaking in the world, right? So all of that is helping their brain and all of those synapses in that brain wiring to explode and create these amazing new connections. But it's a lot, right? So I tell parents, imagine a day where you had like 50 different events and you talked with 100 different people, and it was so loud, and you had all these different foods that you tried, and just like sensory overload, right? So what do you do when you come home? You might go for a run. You might listen to music. You might have a glass of wine. You might just sit on the couch, or read a book, right? We all have different ways that we found hopefully to manage when we're kind of overwhelmed, and we can take a break, right? What do babies have? I mean, all babies can do is cry, right? They can't tell you that they're overwhelmed and they just need a break. And sometimes babies, towards the end of the day, they just will have that witching hour where they just let it go, right? They need to get it out. And I tell parents, what do you want when you feel like crying or screaming? Do you want someone to come and tell you, oh no, don't cry, don't scream, right? And then, try to do everything they can to, make you stop crying. No, you might want someone to sit next to you, hold your hand, let you know it's okay to let it out, cry if you need. I'll try to comfort you, right? And sometimes you just need to cry or scream, right? And so sometimes, even as overwhelming as it is, if you're feeling like you're getting stressed out and, kind of going like this with the baby, and, it's okay, hand the baby to your partner or grandma or a friend, or if nobody's there, snuggle, wrap your baby up and put your baby down and say, I'll sit here. I just need a little break for myself, maybe like a 1 or 2 minute breather so I can unwind, do a little breathing, right? And then come back, right? Because you'll help your baby better if you're not in that kind of really overwhelmed state, because it's so hard to hear your baby crying, right?
Absolutely.
So I know we went on a lot of tangents, but that is to say, right, that reflux, we have so much we can do, besides antacids, right, to really help our babies' gut and immune systems and their nervous systems. And if we understand what's going on both physiologically in the gut, the implications of their future immune system, and also what's going on in their developing brains, it hopefully will help mamas and papas and grandparents listening out there to really understand, okay, it's a process. It's not a quick fix, right? It's not going to be, get the Zantac and immediately all their symptoms are gone, right? But in the long run, it's so much better for everyone, right? And I say grandparents because sometimes it's grandma. I know, my mother, when my daughter was going through a really fussy time, she's like, just give her some medicine. I'm like, I don't want to, but sometimes it's hardest for grandparents, right? To kind of manage that, right? So we have the reflux and the antacids that we want to try to avoid as much as possible. And of course, antibiotics, right? I mean, this study looked at antibiotics and antacids, but so many of us are aware of these superbugs that are resistant to every single antibiotic out there. I mean, scary stuff, right? And hopefully most of us know that antibiotics, are not, are overprescribed often. I mean, just that's the truth of it, right? With ear infections in particular, we know that, the vast majority of ear infections are actually going to improve without antibiotics. And again, even the American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended a watchful waiting approach for kids who aren't, infants, right? And under 6 months of age, and also who aren't very, very sick, right? But given that, this watchful waiting approach, if you're waiting for a couple of days to see how your kids do, I mean, they're still in pain, they still may have a fever, right? So again, this is where using our natural medicines toolkit, I mean, earaches are the number one reason why kids come to the pediatrician's office. And I can tell you in the past, 13, 14 years of my practice, using an integrative holistic approach, I mean, I can count probably on the fingers of both hands how many times I've had to use antibiotics for ear infections, as opposed to before my conventional practice. I mean, I was writing, I don't even like to think about this time, but I was writing maybe a couple prescriptions a day, right, for ear infections. And so, again, using your homeopathy and essential oils and herbal medicines and acupressure is so effective.
It is so wonderful that you are able to share all of this with all of us. Every time we have these conversations, Dr. Elisa, I'm just so grateful for your generosity with all of your knowledge, for your wisdom, and for your gentleness. Every
thank you.
It is just abundantly clear that no matter what place any of us are with our kids, it's going to get better.
It will. And this is where you really want to find a practitioner who can be with you for the long haul, right? It's a journey. Like I said, once you really start looking at an integrative or functional medicine approach, you want this uphill trajectory, but yes, there'll be, you have an uphill trajectory, but there'll be some dips along the road, right? And then you keep going up, and then there's some dips. And it's during those dips that, you really want someone to be with you to help guide you and just, show you and that trust that, okay, we can get through this. We might need to do a little more detective work, right? And again, with that detective work, we're looking at, did something change in the diet? Are there new inflammatory triggers that we're not aware of? I'm guessing most of the people listening to the summit right now, your kids aren't on the standard American diet full of pesticides and, artificial dyes and colors and flavors, but that, is one of the first things that has to come out. Glyphosate or Roundup, that is, I do believe that's one of the biggest reasons for underlying contributors to gut dysbiosis in our kids, because glyphosate was actually patented as an antibiotic, right? It is an antibiotic. So immediately, if you're feeding your kids, non-organic formula or non-organic foods, in large quantities, right? You can create that gut dysbiosis just with that. So,
yeah.
So making sure that at least the most heavily sprayed foods that are on the dirty dozen list, with the environmental working group, that we're eating organically and sticking with, the clean 15, less heavily sprayed foods. Those are, okay to, not necessarily have organic. So just being mindful of that, right? And being aware. And I know everyone listening, I'm kind of preaching to the choir, right? But those are factors, and looking at,
really good.
and stress. I cannot tell you how many kids are stressed. And I also think stress is our lifestyles are another huge inflammatory trigger and huge creator of ongoing gut dysbiosis and dysregulation. Because I'll have parents come to me and say, my kid has never been on an antibiotic, they've never been on antacids, and yet they still have eczema and asthma, and they still have, or they still developed an autoimmune illness. So let's do some digging. Let's figure out, what are the other factors? Is it Wi-Fi? EMFs can play a role. And the factors are different for everyone. So I can tell you all these potential triggers, but it takes that detective work to see what were the factors that created imbalance in your child's immune system, and what was the camel, the straw that broke the camel's back, right? But stress is a big one. Stress, even if it's not the initial trigger, it can be a big perpetuating factor, right? So I give parents concrete tools, right? If I just say, go out and teach your kids to meditate or do yoga, you're going to look at me and say, well, how do I do that, right? So, there are great apps like, the Breathe for Kids app is one of my new favorites. Calm has a section for kids, but the Breathe for Kids is entirely for kids. It's awesome. And, I always refer parents to my two favorite books by Dawn Huebner, spelled Huebner. She has a whole series of what to do guides for kids to teach them cognitive behavioral techniques around key areas. And one of my favorites is What to Do When You Worry Too Much. But she's a book meant also for preteens and older kids called Outsmarting Worry. So, we want to give parents concrete tools and resources too, right? Because, it doesn't help if someone gives you a lot of theory, but doesn't give you the practical, this is how you do it.
And you are sharing an amazing free gift that is exactly that, your 5 R's to healing your child's leaky gut.
Yeah. Yep. So this is where, so Elissa and I on the Healthy Gut Happy Child Summit #1, we spoke a ton. Our conversation was all on how to heal your child's leaky gut. So we went really in depth in that, but this is where the hope begins, right? So if your child has asthma, eczema, autoimmunity, ADHD, anxiety, autism, depression, you name it, any, PANS and PANDAS, any of these gut-brain or gut immune system imbalances, then we start with the gut, right? We heal the gut, and you're going to get your child so much better. Maybe not all the way there, but, definitely on the way to getting better. So we need to start with the gut. So the guide that I'm giving to you, all of you listening, I hope you download it, it's called the 5 R's to Healing Your Child's Leaky Gut. Right, it's my infographic with the 5 key steps, and we can run through quickly the 5 free steps if we have time. And I also want to make sure people knew I did a 3-part Facebook Live. I think, Elissa, you were on one of them, right? A 3-part Facebook Live, basically a 3-part class that I did on Facebook Live, all about the gut, with the first one was Foundations of a Leaky Gut, Foundations of Gut Health. Second one was, leaky gut in kids. And the third one was functional medicine for your kids. But, I did that because I want parents to have all the information, right? And know, okay, and they were pretty in depth, but again, we went through each of the steps in Elissa's first summit, which was awesome, and I'm hoping that most of you who are listening today had a chance to listen to Elissa's last summit, because there's so much great information. And I know Elissa's going to be offering that, as well for you guys if you weren't able to listen, right? So, but anyway, with the 5 R's, I'll just go really briefly through them, because now I know people are like, what are they? So the first R, not in any particular order, right? But the first R would be removing, right? Removing anything that's irritating, inflaming to your gut, including foods, right? I mean, we're looking into what foods are your child sensitive to or allergic to or intolerant to, but also gut bugs, right? Dysbiotic organisms, whether they're parasites or bacteria or yeast. And this is where we need a functional stool analysis, a comprehensive stool analysis, likely to help us know what exactly needs to be treated in the gut, because we're not going to know if we don't look, right?
Right.
And then also it might be other things. It might be environmental toxins, or it might be mold, it might be heavy metals. So there may be other things that, again, just doing a little bit of detective work to see what are the things that are irritating to your kid's gut and removing them, right? Then we're going to replace whatever your child's gut might be missing. Most, digestive enzymes are typically what I look at, right? Many of us, especially if we're in that state where our health isn't optimal, our digestive capacity isn't optimal, so we need a little extra help with digestive enzymes. We want to repair the gut lining, repair the leaky gut, and the main things we're going to do with that are our omega-3 essential fatty acids, right, our fish oils. Glutamine is the amino acid that's a preferred fuel for the small intestinal lining to heal itself. And zinc is another one that I do add quite a bit, because many and most kids, actually, and adults, are either outright deficient or insufficient in zinc. And we need zinc to heal any lining, whether it's our skin if we have eczema, or our gut lining if we have a leaky gut. Then we're going to re-inoculate, right? And this is where Elissa is, a fermentation expert, right? And so we want to make sure we're getting in all of those good bacteria back in. And I would love it if kids did that with foods, right? I mean, yes, I give kids probiotic supplements. Many kids don't yet have a taste for fermented foods. And I say yet because we want, a growth mindset. We want to know that it is possible. We keep trying, right? But that fork full of sauerkraut, or that beet kvass is going to have so much more kind of bang for the buck, right? So much more punch, for re-inoculating your child's gut than any probiotic supplement that you can take. But apart from that, if your child is not yet, really liking those fermented foods, of which there are a whole variety, right? You keep trying, but then you give a probiotic supplement. And then the final R, the 5th R, which used to not be an R until relatively recently, it used to be the 4R program, right? But the Institute for Medicine changed the 4R program to the 5R program. And I think this 5th R is really probably the most important R to heal your child fully and keep them healed, right? And that's the rebalance part. That's the restoring the mind, body, spirit connection, right? And that's, with mindfulness, meditation, walks in nature, getting enough sleep, right? Social connectedness, time with family and friends. I mean, all of that we need to prioritize and think of as much as a medicine as any supplement or pharmaceutical that I might recommend for you.
It really is essential.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, thank you so much for going through your gift, for sharing everything that you've shared. And can you believe I have one more question for you?
Yes, go for it.
I ask all of the experts at the end of our interview, what is something that brings you joy?
I'm guessing maybe I said this last year, but really the joy for me is really my kids, and they are not always joy. I mean, there are days where I'm so frustrated with them that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just have to, breathe myself and sometimes use my own walk away power, right? But, as I watch them and not, it's my joy isn't in seeing them always be happy, right? And this is where, I think that we want to reframe what it is to raise healthy, happy kids, right? Because they don't have to always be happy and getting what they want, right? My joy is in watching my kids when they're a little sad or frustrated. I can see their wheels turning, and they can turn it around, and they can make those decisions to make a good choice, right? Or a healthy choice, whatever it is, and be proud of it. I mean, that look when they've actually accomplished something and they're so proud of themselves, like that just melts my heart, right? Of course, I love it when they're so happy and they're like, Mama, you're home, and they run and give me big hugs. But it's really, as now their Kenzie is, 8.5, and Bodhi is 6.5. He's going to be 7 over the summer. Every year I just find more and more joy in seeing what great kids are becoming, right? It's work, it takes effort. And, sometimes they're not the kids that I would like them to be in that moment, but we keep trying, and that's what makes it so worthwhile. So I would say hands down, it's my kids. I mean, more than anything else that I do, and everything I do is for the kids.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that and everything in this amazing interview today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so honored, to be here with you.
Oh, it is. The pleasure is all mine. Have a great rest of your day, Dr. Elisa.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
Bye.